All right. Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for being with me today. I am hosting my brother, my friend here in the local Central Florida area, Allie Braswell Jr. He's a beloved brother here, served in the Marine Corps. So he's a forever Marine, as we say. And brother, it's so good to have you on the show. You there?
It's good to be here. Sorry for the delay. We seem to have a little bit of a audio video delay, so my apologies if I seem a little bit behind the schedule here. But it's so good to be with you, Enrique. As always, blessings.
All right. And folks, today we're going to be focusing on one of Allie's specialties, which is relationship. He wrote this little book, and I say little, but packs a lot of power, which is this: Engage, Invest, Grow, a blueprint for mastering relationships. I was fortunate enough to be with him when he launched this, and got a copy for somebody in the audience that will share this post. So I'll be tallying that and getting all that information together so that we can get this amazing book to your hands. Now, Allie, you mentioned this thing called relationships, but I wanted to get a little background from you as to how you get to the point where you say, hey, I know enough about relationships now that I'm going to put this into a book and release it.
So many people ask me why was I doing what I'm doing, and how did I get to be so successful at what I do? And what I found was the incredible opportunity to be able to talk about relationships. A lot of my success has really come. Enrique, I'm getting a lot of technical difficulties here. I'm going to sign off and try to sign back in and hopefully fix this. If you can hear me, please give me just a moment. My apologies to your audience, but I'm going to try to fix this. Thank you.
No problem. We got it here, brother. Go ahead and do what you got to do. So, folks, as we handle this technical issue, which, hey, it happens a lot of times, and that's okay. But he's going to go into his background, into why he focused on relationship. And if you know anything about our life here on earth, and I was thinking about this earlier this morning, not particular to this specific show, but in general, we can't accomplish anything on our own. We might be able to do a couple of tasks that will actually impact us immediately on our own. But if we aim to make any impact apart from us, it requires somebody else. Biblically speaking, when God looked at Adam and said, hey, it's not good for this brother to be by himself, there was an intent there, and it was all around relationship. And so today we're going to focus around those things, and Allie's going to break down specifically why he wrote Engage, Invest, and Grow. But I have noticed that in my life, it has gotten to pinnacles in those areas in my life because of the help of others. There is no way I would have gotten any particular place farther than where I was if it was not for either the engagement of somebody in my life, the investment of somebody in my life and the desire for someone else to see me grow into whatever they saw when they first met me. And so for all the people, as we're waiting for Allie to get back in, for all the people that know me, have engaged with me, and have seen me through to where I am today, thank you. A huge thank you. Because I know and I'm cognizant of the fact that without you, I would not be where I am. Now, primarily, God, right? I want to thank him first. But, the Lord put people in my life that made it easier for me to get to where I am today. And so thank you for that. And for all those that came in my life and it wasn't so pleasant, there is still some thanks to be given, because had I not gone through those things, I wouldn't have gotten better. I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have learned my lesson, right? So even in those circumstances, you have to thank God for that interchange, as painful as it may have been for whatever reasons those are, uh, to the fact that you grew, you matured, you got out of a situation that you could have easily still been in. And so thank God. And let's say, unfortunately, hey, sometimes you got to thank even those that come in to create havoc and chaos in your life. In keeping with that, the relationship thing pops up a lot, and so, for those of you that are viewing, and I thank you. I thank you for joining me. I don't know exactly who's on because no one has chimed in, but please get in the comments and let me know, hey, I'm here, and I would love to see that, and also greet you. But when we're talking about relationships, it is a plural thing. It's not just you, and it requires somebody else. So I want to know if there has been any particular relationship in your life that has allowed you, or a person that has allowed you to excel in life beyond what you could do by yourself, which would be a great thing to highlight those people in today's show as we're talking about relationships. Now, I'll give you a little background as to why I have Allie talking specifically about this. And it's not just because he wrote this book. Allie here in Central Florida represents a person that is not only well connected, but he's well connected because of the things he has done. He started off here in local Central Florida, doing some work with Disney, and by some work, I'm going to say some powerful work with Disney. And then he moved on from there and went into the finance world. He was DEI director for ViStar. He's been doing a lot of things here in the local community, and he has drastically impacted this Central Florida community by the things he has done. Now, as I mentioned before, it's not just doing something, and I'll bring him back in, and I'll bring you back in, brother. I was just talking about you and your little resume there, but I'll let you share a lot more of that. I was just talking about relationships in general, and why it's important for us to not only uh, keep those, but foster some growth into those. So I'll go back to the initial question where we left off. What got you to the point where you said, "Hey, I'm good enough now to get this thing on paper and launch this book"?
Hey, first of all, again, my apologies for the technology glitches, and but there's always more than one way to skin a cat. The Marine is always ready to.
That's right.
And but the key thing for me is I was saying, in my career, I always got asked, why have you been so successful? What has been the key to your being able to do the things that you do? And I would tell you, Enrique, the key for me has been my relationships. People who have thought it not robbery to sponsor me, open a door, help me gain access, or invest some time, talent, and treasure in my career. And when I looked at that, I would always talk about it. And I remember being at the Getting in Good Trouble Awards luncheon a year ago, and I was talking about the SHIPS framework. And my wife turned to me and she said, you need to write a book about your relationships, and you need to tell people what it is and what it's about and why you do what you do. And what it really came down to, Enrique, was telling people that relationships start with the littlest catalyst, but it can grow to be so powerful and impactful if you nurture them over time. And in that framework, what it came out to be is I played on the ship part of relationship, that if you do through scholarship and learn about each other, spend time to really get to know each other and invest time into the relationship, it becomes a better partnership. And the partnership that has shared income, shared goals, are something that organizations and individuals can then buy into, because I know then you have my best interest in mind. And I don't mind moving over to sponsorship. So many times people who hear sponsorship and they think that's about writing a check. Well, in the book, I talk about it's called relationship currency, though. A lot of times before we actually get to a monetary check or a cashier's check or a sponsorship from an organization, there has to be sponsorship taking place from the standpoint of someone believing enough in your character, your reputation, that they'll have the conversation when you're out of the room that's favorable and in your favor, rather than have that conversation and it might not be so favorable based upon what reputation that may carry forward. Once you do that, the whole last part of the SHIPS framework is ownership, because then we have an opportunity to share in it. And if I extended an invitation into my circle of influence, I also want to maintain that it's going to be held in the highest regard by the person I sponsored. So there's that ownership of seeing it through and then all watching each other come together to build that incredible, impactful relationship. Long answer, but that was the catalyst and the crux of it.
No, and I thank you for breaking that down. We're going to be going through, folks. We're going to be going through these little stages here, and there's nothing that motivates a Navy person than a bunch of ships being around. So I'll tell you what, when I saw the book and I read the book, it really resounded in me the fact that Allie, and I'll tell you this right now in your face in front of everybody, that you live out every piece of this book. Now,
Wow.
folks, I read from the front to the back, right? I read it and asked my wife. It's a hard thing to get me to read anything when it comes to books, but I read it, and every time I got to one of these ships, I remember a time where we either interacted and I saw it, or we have interacted here recently and I saw it. So, brother, you're the perfect person to write about this, because I have witnessed it myself. So I just wanted to let you know that in front of everybody here. So,
well, I truly thank you for that, because when you're writing, you're not sure. It resonates with you, but is it going to resonate with someone? So that feedback, Enrique, is incredible. I truly appreciate it. And, having met your wife, I know she's going to hold you to the task, but what's so important is I wanted it to be an engaging walk. And I'm glad that my audio matches my video. I didn't want to write something that, sounds good, looks good, but I wasn't living it. And that testimony right there just means the world to me. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, absolutely. That definitely earned. Now, so we go into this thing called relationships, and there's different types of relationships. People view relationships at a different stage in their life or a different way. So what did you mean by relationship in terms of how you described it in the book?
So what I talk about in relationships, it's that catalyst or that reason for coming together. When I think about the term of relationships, a lot of people, when you search for it, it's going to pull up and talk about personal relationships. But I think even in your personal relationships, you can be so engaged and so focused that it begins to bring value by being engaged with someone. For example, I talk about my relationship with Bob Billingsley in the book, who was a mentor, someone I looked up to, who was a Disney. If he didn't get a legend, he was as close to being legendary as possible. Bob worked there for 40 years, but Bob would reach out and identify young, talented people in the organization to invest his time, talent, and treasure in. And in doing so, cultivating a relationship, which is a mutually rewarding engagement. It's not just I was there to look to gain, was also there to look to give back. And in that relationship, Bob poured so much into me of understanding Disney, of understanding community, that it changed the trajectory of my career. I went from being the geek who could speak over in technology to really getting engaged with corporate urban affairs with him and global strategies for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the whole thing was around community engagement. And because of that, I learned that in coining the phrase results-oriented community engagement, it was really Bob taught me how to engage in community with a result, an intended result in mind. And in teaching that, it really helped me understand the power of relationship. He didn't have to do it, number one. Number two, I had to be of good character and reputation for him to want to invest his time and put his reputation on the line. Just a small story there. I used to travel a lot in that role. And when I would go to different cities to city and say, I work for Disney, they immediately asked, do you know Bob Billingsley? And I would later find out that everyone who asked me that would then pick the phone up after I left and say, do you know this cat? Do you know him? And Bob would then sponsor me into that circle. And so through those relationships, the relationship is a mutually rewarding engagement, coming together to find out, do we have shared outcomes? Do we have shared goals? And if we do, then how do we partner together to help each other attain it? Kind of like what you and I do a lot in bringing you to the launch of the book, but also being on this show. I think this is my third or fourth time, and I'm just elated that that's a partnership. But if I didn't have the character and the reputation, I don't think you'd have me here as many times as you had me here. You might have me once and said, that brother right there, no, I'm good.
You're right. Because, and when you talk about relationship, I love that you shared that experience that you had there at Disney. And I'm sure that those replicated somewhere else as you went on into the other. And I mentioned ViStar before you came in when you was with them. But relationship, in the military, they teach us trust but verify, right? That's how we do. We're going to give you some trust, but then we're going to make sure that it's well placed. And I advise everybody, or at least suggest that everybody kind of take a careful approach at your relationship, because as we know, we've all lived out life and we've seen great relationships and we've seen bad ones, right? And both of those, we chose to trust a person with our time and our energy, and regardless of whether it went right or the other way, it happened, right? And so yes, we try to nurture those, but like I said previously, when you meet a person like yourself, and for those that don't know, there's some points in my mind that Allie's face pops up, right? One of them was that we both lost a very good friend, right? Rogue. And I remember, I showed up, you was there, and I wore my uniform. He didn't serve, but I wore my uniform because he was that type of person. Mm-hmm. He loved the smack out of the military community. There's very few civilians that I have known that have loved the military community as much as he did. And so I thought it would be a good gesture of honor to do so. But that was one event that we both knew someone, and we were not as well versed with each other at that point. But we still greeted each other. I knew you was a Marine. obviously you could tell that I was a Navy guy, but it's stamped in my head because at that point, as I looked around that room, I saw relationship at work, and it's sad that it would be in that venue, but that's when I started seeing you come off the limelight of what you have built in Central Florida, right? To get into a very intimate, very touching point in someone's his family's life, and represent that relationship that you speak about. And so, when you think about folks that you have had the pleasure of engaging throughout your life and these little points, and I know that there are a few that are looking and have joined us both on different social media platforms here, that you must have somebody that pops up when you think about something, or you hear something, a song, or you pass by a store, or something comes up, a movie, and that person pops up. That's because relationship, and so you so eloquently describe that there as you're, you've devoted to the book.
Well, and Bob is one instance, and you're right, Enrique. One of the things I love about this work in teaching leaders to build mutually rewarding relationships, even down into their teams, is I do have thoughts that come to mind of different people throughout my life that have poured into my successful journey. And thank you so much for bringing Rogue Gallart back to the forefront, because I think when we speak him is not only in the movie Coco, but it's true. When we speak about those who have gone on before us and we share their story, Rogue made such an impact in this community. And I remember meeting him for the first time when I was the Urban League president, and it was just an immediate bond. We had shared interests. He poured into me and shared more about his role and his understanding of community, and from a legislative standpoint, how to navigate that. He didn't have to do that, but that was a deposit. See, because I think in relationships, what we had to do is we had to make deposits before we make withdrawals. And so then Rogue had made such a bank of deposits with me that unfortunately, when we lost him, I could not attend his final homegoing ceremony. I think about April and his little boy, and I just think about and want them to know and want his son to grow up knowing the incredible dad that he had. And that's how we pay things forward. You see, relationships don't just stop or start because of a particular catalyst. The catalyst can come from anywhere. This time came from a sad moment, but is now turned into Rogue still making an investment because he brought us together. And what are we doing? We're paying it forward by bringing others to understand the power of relationships. See, when you invest in a relationship and you give of your time, talent, and treasure your resources, it's not always about writing a check. Sometimes it's just about showing that you have a heart and that you're a real person. I can tell you, I've had the privilege of meeting many a celebrity, running for legislative office, many a politician. But what is most remarkable are those, like you said, who pop up when you think about them and it's favorable. I think about Dr. Randolph Bracey when I first became the Urban League president, and we were able to sit down and talk, and he congratulated me. And I was able to remind him, sir, you saw me before, but you may not remember me. Because see, Dr. Randolph Bracey poured into me, even though he was the NAACP president in Orlando and Orange County at that time. He poured into me when I was a young kid in Rochester, New York, in one of the programs that he ran through the Urban League and over at Madison High School, which was my opposing high school, but he was in the community. So you never know when you're making that deposit that then's going to come to fruition later on into something positive. He and I would go on to build an incredible relationship. And in his incredible baritone voice or bass voice, he would tell me, "You're a bad brother." And, what an opportunity to pay it forward and to also give a return on investment for somebody who invested time in me. So I have that often when I think about a man of character and doing great things. That's one gentleman who comes to mind, who we lost last year, but just continues through his daughter and through his wife, continuing to be that advocate in the community for what's right. So 100%, I'm glad I pop up for you, but that's who pops up for me.
Outstanding. So when we talk about relationships, you in the book, you break it down with partnerships, scholarships, sponsorships, ownerships. And then I want to go through those. And then finally, I want to get into this event that's coming up in December, Live2Lead, and we'll focus on that here at the end. But in terms of partnerships, people view partnerships in different ways, right? Some they're amorous partnerships. There are working partnerships. There are beneficial and sometimes non-beneficial partnerships. But how do you break it down there when you're talking about partnerships?
Well, when I think about partnerships, as I explained in the book, it's about finding that shared interest. Let's take it from a corporate perspective. A lot of organizations seek to partner with larger organizations, mostly for the gain of moving a product or moving a service or providing a product or service. And you got to find the commonality. Where does it make sense? So you got to do discovery. And I think that's back in scholarship. We have to understand and learn, where are our commonalities? Where do we have common ground? Where do we have shared interests? And do we have shared interests? Because if we take the time to learn, we may find it's not the best to partner with this person. We just aren't. It's not a bad thing, but it's better to find that out than having gone down the path of trying to partner and it failed. By doing that discovery, by listening, learning, and leaning in to understand each other, we have a better opportunity at partnership. Then when we partner, I now know that, for example, let's use you and I, Enrique. I know that you are a Maxwell certified leader. I know that you have been doing leadership for a number of years. I know that you're award winning. So when I'm able to open the door to sponsorship and say, hey, who should I have on a panel to talk about relationships? You immediately come to mind. You immediately come to mind because I took the time to understand you. Then we entered into partnership a long time ago, and it wasn't about monetary gain. It was about changing community. It was about impacting and growing future leaders. So what was the shared interest? Leadership. What was another shared interest? The military. Our Navy Marine Corps bonds us as brothers in that hallowed services there of being able to give back to this community and pay it forward as patriots. So if you notice, we're checking boxes along the way here as we moved into a partnership that says, when you didn't think it robbery to steal you and your wife away on a Wednesday and say, come to Winter Garden, sit down and let me share this new book launch, because we knew each other. In that partnership and in partnerships, what I think is it must be a mutual shared interest. There must be some common goal. There has to be common values too. You have to have the right character and reputation that precedes you in order for people to want to engage and share their time, talent, and treasure. I think it could be amorous. I mean, if I would say if people spent more time understanding each other on the way into relationships on a personal level, maybe we wouldn't have so much exodus on the backside. And I'll just leave that one right there.
Right.
I am not the relationship guru for personal. They have paid professionals for that.
Amen. Well, I tell you that, and just in the sense of amorous, in terms of a relationship going so good that you can actually tell somebody, I love you, bro. Right.
Love you too, man.
And so there are relationships that I am engaged in throughout my life that I can easily tell a brother, man, I love you to death, bro. I mean, I'll do anything short of violating some law to help you out, man. And so, the building of relationships can get to that point. Not all of them do, but at least a deep sense of appreciation for a person for what they bring to this world and to your life. So yeah, great breakdown there. Now, sponsorships is another thing that you speak of. And I know that you kind of cascade this into the latter part of ownership, but let's talk about sponsorships.
Sponsorship is what you're doing right now. You invited me to the show. You invited me to share. But why did you? And it goes back to, it's crazy, you know, when you come up with something and one person asked me, Allie, so all these ships navigating in this water, where are they headed? I said, the island of inclusion and culture and belonging. Because when we learn about each other, sponsorship comes easy. Sponsorship is when I'm willing to put some skin in the game. Whether that be from a corporate standpoint, I'm willing to write a check and sponsor an event or sponsor an experience, or that be that I want to open a door for you to my circle of influence that may propel you forward and be a great success. I think of Jacob Stewart, the former head of the Orlando Chamber when I came through Leadership Orlando. And when I went over to become the head of the Urban League, one of the persons who wrote me a letter of sponsorship, of recommendation, was Jacob Stewart. Jacob got to see me as a young Marine veteran coming home, working for Disney, giving back to community, and then later moving over to run the Urban League. Jacob would then continue to sponsor me by continuing to tell people my good character, of the good things I was doing in the community. He would also tell them of how I was benefiting the organizations that I served as a volunteer leader. Jacob then taught me how to fundraise. And he, along with the head of scouting at the time, would be my mentors to helping me understand nonprofit management and nonprofit fundraising. Can you see that doors open because of Jacob's reputation? It has once been said that the Stewart brothers could get together at their mother's table and raise $1 million in a matter of hours. I still truly believe that. Between Jacob, Robert, and Charlie Stewart, incredible leaders in our community, I got exposed to who they were. I got to see different characteristics of each one of them that allowed me to be able to do a better job of who I was. Would have never been invited in that circle had Jacob not saw that I was sound character, of good reputation, to where he wanted to put some skin in the game and develop me. I would move on to lead Leadership Orlando alumni and just be an incredible member of the chamber, which is now the Orlando Partnership. But it was such an incredible investment of time. Now, here again, had I not been of the right reputation, of the right character, I don't know if I would have had that door open for me. But when that door opened, that was Jacob sponsoring me. No check was written. Often I was writing a check to participate in the chamber or the organization I was a part of. But the relationship was built because of the engagement, because he took time to invest. And I sought opportunity to give back. Remember, I said partnerships and relationships should be mutually rewarding. You know, to close that out, let me just say, Bob sponsored me through doors and avenues that propelled my Disney career, but I was able to pay it forward when I was able to sponsor the Bob Billingsley Legacy Award at the Urban League's gala that celebrated first year awardee to Bob Billingsley, and then having him then present that to the next awardee to continue the legacy of giving back and making a difference in the community. So long answer, but sponsorship is critical. It's a key element of the ship's framework.
I love that. I love the fact that you were able to, in life, right? Because sometimes a lot of these things come post life, and then you're doing it, and that's great, but the brother's not here no more, right? But you were able to do that, pay that tribute, that homage to a person that deposited so much into you, was able to open doors for you, and that's a beautiful thing, folks. Give the flowers while they're living, bro. Give the flowers while they're living, because after, it's a nice gesture, and I still appreciate it, but it makes a whole lot more sense while they're here, right? So if you have a relationship and you haven't taken the time to give them flowers, do it today, right? Right after this, go ahead and do it. So you mentioned and you get to the point of ownership. And I know this is a very crucial piece of the ships. So let's talk about ownerships.
So it's navigating everything above. But once, you know, you made that investment, and let's go back to Rogue. I can remember when Rogue was over the chamber and was starting at the disability chamber and trying to get it moving. And his heart was there. His passion was there. And I remember him calling me one time and said, Allie, I don't know what you're going to say, but I want you to come and speak. And I was like, okay. Now, when I reflect back on it, it wasn't immediately, it was, I'll be there. Don't know what I'm going to say either, but we'll figure it out. Whatever it takes to help you. Because the ownership came from Rogue had invested time and energy into me. It was time for me to continue to nurture that partnership and sponsor Rogue now. And then the ownership comes in that it's the ongoing maintenance of the relationship. It's ensuring that the sponsorship I did is being handled well, and I'm helping the person I sponsored navigate through to success. Or it's also who I may have opened the door to, helping that organization navigate through success with the person that I've sent to engage with them. Most recently, I got a note last night from someone saying, I am in this magazine thanks to you. Do you know the reward and feeling that gives you when you're able to say, okay, I did good. I did well. I helped somebody attain a goal or achieve an accomplishment or receive an accolade. And that's that ownership of being able to manage the relationship well, continuing to invest time, making, you hear me talk about things in terms of relationship deposits, continuously making deposits and reaping the dividends of those. So that when at some point I might have to make a withdrawal and say, hey, Enrique, could you please come over here on a Wednesday in the middle of Winter Garden? And I don't know if it was raining that night. I can't remember. But will you come out, press your way out and be there? And there you were. Or it's the person or in your life that you've been mentoring with or being mentored by, being able to turn around and say, yeah, I'll continue to help you. I'll continue to propel your career forward because I know you to be a sound character. And I often talk about ownership is also continuing the conversations when the other person is in the room. How many people will say or admit they know conversations happen when they leave the room, but they may not want to admit that they're favorably being talked about. So when you're on guard and when you're learning about each other and partnering and opening doors to each other through sponsorship, it's then maintaining the relationship through ownership to see that it's successful, that the person that you're sponsoring or engaging or the organization you're engaging with is successful. I think about my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I'm constantly making sure that wherever I go, kind of like that Marine Corps adage, if there is enough of me being a Sigma to show up, that people would convict me because they saw me walk by. Something I learned as a young E3, Enrique, they said, if somebody accused you of being a Marine, would there be enough evidence to convict you? And it's something I've lived by all my life. I hope that explains it and helps you get an understanding.
No, most definitely. And, when we speak about ownership, typically it's around what you can control, right? And this is a separate and more overarching thing into relationships. When someone invests in you and you can reason with that and say, okay, this person is just doing this momentary right now. They're putting all their chips on me. When you get a call, you go. Right? You go. And not a lot of people think of those things when they come up. They'll either look at their schedule, oh, I can't make it or whatever. Sometimes you got to reschedule some stuff in order for you to re-engage in the level of relationship where you're at, because you either want this to grow, and typically, when I do things, I'm not initially looking at, oh, what am I getting? Because I'm taught to give.
Yes.
Right? I'm taught to give. And so what my initial thought is, how is this going to impact that person if I show up? And if you're thinking about stuff like that, you'll recalculate whatever it was that was going through your head to divert you from committing to a support. But you, brother, you make it easy to say yes and to support. So, and I wanted to ask the audience, you know, how do you go about your thought process when folks that have invested in you and have ushered you to greater heights, how do you think about your support of them when they ask, even if it's the day before? Shoot, even if it's the day, because sometimes it comes that way, right? Hey, I have this thing coming on tonight. Could you make yourself available? How do you go about your thought process? Good thing to ask, and hopefully you'll go in the comments and participate there. Now, Allie, we have this event that that you so graciously invited me to, but that you're running, which is Live2Lead, and I'll throw this little thing up here, right? Because we have an adjustment on the date. It was October, but now it's going to be December 6th. Live2Lead is an event that comes from John Maxwell community. We're both members of that community. We're both certified trainers, coach, and speakers in that community. A wonderful event, but a lot of people, believe it or not, as I go through my leadership thing, and they said, well, where do you get certified? I said, well, I'm certified John Maxwell, and they look at me like they have no idea who I just said, which to me, it surprises me every time. So not everybody knows John Maxwell. Not everybody knows what this event is about. So tell us a little bit about the event and, you know, the different, I'm going to try to get a picture of all those that are going to be in there so I can throw it up and give you some prop there. But tell us about that event.
So let's even give you the grounding of John C. Maxwell is world renowned as the #1 authority in leadership. He's published over 80 books now. His most recent book is High Road Leadership, which is teaching people how to take the high road. There's 3 types of leaders out there. High road leaders who value people and put people first. There's medium that make it transactional. If you do good for me, I'll do good for you. And then there's low road leaders who really aren't concerned about the individual. They're concerned about themselves. So in doing that, John pointed out even in that book that it's better to teach people how to be high road leaders and value people. When we value people, people will give you their best. They will show up just like Enrique was just saying. They'll show up when you call them at 7 a.m. and say, hey, I need you at 9. Or they'll answer the phone at 7 a.m. when you make the phone call. So with that, John Maxwell hosts the International Maxwell Conference twice a year and brings in leaders from all over the world. Most recently, we just opened in Indonesia. I'm looking forward to that as an Indonesian linguist, being able to go over and help train leaders there. But I wanted to make sure that people in Central Florida didn't miss out on the opportunity of hearing from some powerful, very powerful individuals. So on December 6th, we're going to be bringing that same energy of a Day to Grow conference in the Live2Lead Central Florida experience. And on that day, it's a full day of leadership. We're going to have John Maxwell open the day and give such a powerful testimony of what doing much better than I am with his book of High Road Leadership, of talking about the benefit of building and bringing people together in a world that divides right now. The national narrative has become quite divisive around a number of topics, but what we as leaders have to do is work to bring people together. So he's going to kick us off there. We're then going to have a mixture of local talent along with virtual engagement with John, and then John Gordon, who has taught some of the best NFL teams how to build teamwork. Renowned author, has worked with organizations like the Chicago Bears in the state of Florida, the Jacksonville Jaguars, on how to build team, how to come together, and how to grow. So then we'll have Shantae Lowe, who's a 4-time Olympian, tell her incredible story of overcoming cancer and fighting and for women how to move ahead. Valerie Burton will also share doing this virtually. All of these speakers are virtually, but even in person, we're going to have Major General Robert Edmondson, just recently retired from the United States Army after 3 decades, talk about born to be a leader, and that everyone is born who's born can be a leader, can move ahead, can be trained with the right principles to be able to live. So who's it for, Enrique? It's for organizations to get their people in front of some of the most incredible leaders, representing how to take that lid off and rise to the next level, how to influence people to move ahead and do better. And you're putting them in an audience that a lot of people, when I talk about John Maxwell, they say, well, Allie, is unaffordable. It's like $1,400, $1,700 to attend a conference. Well, John wanted a way that we could bring it into the local communities, and through Live2Lead, that is the way that we're doing it. And for the cost of $179.99 general admission, and early bird right now at $149.99, individuals can come and spend a day immersed in leadership. We're going to play the Maxwell leadership game and help organizations see how they can grow and move and become flexible and adjustable to achieve even greater heights. And again, like John likes to say, raise the lid. When you think about it, the organization is only going to go as high as its leadership is prepared to take it. So we constantly are investing through the Maxwell leadership. Locally, also, we're going to have Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, Marilyn Westrop, and Mike Felix join me on a panel to talk about engage, invest, grow, and the power of building relationships. And we'll round out the day with an incredible offer for how to continue to engage. So we're looking for sponsors. We're looking for individuals to come together for a day of leadership in Central Florida. I hope that gives a good overview.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And I'm going to put some graphics here so that you can see the lineup, just top of the crop, the cream of the crop type of people that will be joining the virtual and in-person speakers. There will also be a panel, which I am blessed to be part of. That little picture there, but I just spoke to Mike not too long ago, and we're gonna meet for lunch here next week. But it's amazing because look at that. So up until this event, I did not know Mike. I reached out to Mike. I tell him, hey, I'm in Lake Nona. He's like, hey, let's meet and we're gonna have lunch. So these are the things, folks, that you can capitalize on in your lifetime. You don't have to wait till somebody else comes with the introduction. Find the people. If you have similar, and we're talking about this, right? The basis of relationship is, what do you have in kind? What is it that connects you? Right? For most military people, that's all you got to see. Did you serve? And then bam, you're connected. You act like you know each other for all your life, and you probably just met. And so what is it that's connecting you? What is it from there that you can now say, okay, well, this person does this, I do this. How can we collaborate to increase each other's territory, right? We talk about, in the biblical sense, the enlargement of territory. This is one of the ways you do it, through relationship. And then you further on and you start saying, okay, well, this person is doing great. I have an opportunity to sponsor this person. Let me throw some sponsorship there. They throw some sponsorship back. It's an amazing thing. And once ownership sets in, right? The ownership sets in. It's glory. That's all I can say. Allie, I mentioned how you have, in my eyes, right? This one individual have done everything that I see and have read in this book, at least with me, and if there's anyone, one person, here it is. But I know that you've done this multiple times. When you released your book, I was there. I heard the testimonies of people that have engaged with you and experienced the same thing. Your blueprint, this book. And for those that are viewing or looking at the replay of this live, all you got to do is share this and you'll be in the running to get this particular book. Actually, this one was signed by Allie. So this one is coming to you. All you have to do is share this and let people experience what relationship is and all the ships that he discussed here. But you know, to end this, you have blessed me by allowing me to get into and speak as a in-person speaker at this event. Folks, you don't know what it is, and I hopefully you do, to have somebody of the caliber that Allie has here in Central Florida, to have him ask you, it number one, I was dumbfounded. I was blown. I was like, who? What? Do what? But you mentioned earlier, and almost, to T, I gotta be careful here. All you want to do in life is do right by everybody that you come across and do right by God, man. That's all I want to do. And when you see things like this come your way, it's a testament that you're going down the right way. And so thank you for that.
100%, sir. And I want to tell you, you are walking and talking. Your audio matches your video, Enrique. That's why, and I want to tell you that it's a pleasure to call you my brother. Not only my brother in the military, but my brother in leadership and in making a difference in our community. See, a lot of people say, well, Allie, why do you do this? I'm on a mission to touch 5 million people before I leave the face of this earth and put some humanity back into being human. I want us to walk past each other and speak like they used to when I was a kid. I want us to be able to engage and see honor and respect in people. The sword that you see above my head was presented to me by the oldest Latin American fraternity in the history of America, because I was invited to speak and keynote their gala. You want to talk about meeting the founders of an organization that says, hey, it was your organization gave us the idea. We just put our Latin heritage into it and make it. And to have one of the founders of that continually send you a message here and there just to say, hey, we're watching you, you're doing good work. See, it's not about the color of the skin. It's not about the gender that we're in. It's all about the heart that's within us. And if we can continue to feed that through events like and experiences like Live2Lead, and you can go to Live2Lead Central CFL.com and purchase your tickets, learn even more. But it's about really understanding how we can touch each other and how through that touch, that human interaction, that engagement, relationships are built. And from those relationships, because we're going to have networking opportunities in this room all day. It's from 8 to 5 on December 6th at the Rosen Center on International Drive. So you don't have to go far to have an experience that's going to propel you to your future. I truly believe, Enrique, we're going to touch hearts and change. And you have done that for me over and over again, my brother. I've lost count how many times I've been here, but I'll come back again if you invite me. And folks, I want y'all to spread the message. Tell people what Enrique Acosta Gonzalez is doing. He doesn't have to do this. He's doing it because it makes a difference. He's touching people who we won't even see. And you got to share this because somebody needs a good news message today. And I'm so glad to be on Aloha Friday. Maybe next time I'm going to find an old Aloha shirt. But, in Hawaii, when I was stationed there, Aloha was a greeting and welcoming you. It was also a departure. It was a way of saying, I see you. When I think about an African tribe in North Africa, they talk about, their saying is to each other is, I see you. And the response is, I am present. Today, I'm proud to be present on your show, to be in this work of leadership and growth. And thank you so much for allowing me to share Engage, Invest, Grow. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. And it's even available now as a half-day workshop for organizations for me to come in and help you build better relationships that create empowerment and propel organizations forward. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for being with me once again. And obviously, we will be getting you on prior to the event so we can prime that. But folks, thank you so much for being with us this hour. as we spoke with Allie Braswell, he's leading not only in the book writing here, and I make sure to push this so that you can get into running for that, but he's leading in the John Maxwell space. Here in December, we'll have another event. I want to thank everybody for joining us today and let you know that we did reach 700 subscribers on YouTube, and now we're inching towards 800. So if you'd like to join us there and support this show, please do so by going to @DTLW Podcast on YouTube and subscribe. Won't cost you nothing, but you'll get over 600 different people speaking about leadership on that channel. And I tell you, you'll learn a whole lot. Another thing is that we are streaming live on Parade Deck. Thank you, Parade Deck, which is a content creator platform for the military, veterans, military spouses. They're doing a great job. And so thank you, Parade Deck, for hosting us. Folks, it is my joy to have Allie, and I hope that you learned something about relationships today. We will see each other next week on another Aloha Friday. Mahalo, everybody. God bless, and have a safe weekend.